Achieving economic greatness and manifesting your civilization are always go together. You really cannot become a developed country till you have not learned how to live with your civilization and build on it in the modern times. Any country which we can call developed today will be producing above 600 to 7 kg per capita of food grains. We still produce about 200 kilograms. Making a developed India will mean somehow we go back to that structure because there are no countries which can become developed while retaining a colonial structure of administration and a colonial relationship between the state and the society.
तो हमारे साथ आज नीरज जी हैं जो हिंदू फंड के बिहाफ पर प्रेजेंटेशन देंगे और हिंदू फंड के बारे में बताएंगे। और एज अ ग्रांटी हमारे पास डॉक्टर पद्मश्री डॉक्टर जेके बजाज सर और एमडी श्रीनिवास सर हैं। मैं आप सबका स्वागत करता हूँ।
So I'll just brief you about the background of Hindu Fund, why we are doing it, what all we are doing under Hindu Fund, and at the end of the day, what we want to achieve. Okay, so I'll start by a quote by Osho ji, who says that भारत कोई भूखंड नहीं है, ना कोई राजनीतिक इकाई है, ना ऐतिहासिक तथ्यों का एक कोई टुकड़ा, ना धन, ना पद्धति, ना प्रतिष्ठा की पागल दौड़ है। भारत एक अभीप्सा, एक प्यास सत्य को पा लेने की। So basically, what he means by that is that India is not a piece of geography or a political entity. It's like a complete civilization or the practice of values that defines India. So the Indians are basically are recognized through their value system and the practices that they follow or the culture that they belong to, right? When we say Hindu, so we consider all the Indian born religions and philosophy, okay, to be a part of Hindu. And that is what makes India a sacred place. So, what are the challenges since we all have, like, we are all in majority and there are like, we are almost 75% of the India's total population, still we are facing many challenges. And as a community, we are always under attack. Why is that? So that is the main reason behind it is the Constitution of India, which obviously we cannot do anything about it. It is what it is. So basically, Indian Constitution provides equal status to all the religions in India, irrespective of their practices, values, and the outcome that they deliver in society. If you take certain laws that are part of our constitution, so they create a major problem for the society as a whole, right? What are the Indic values? So when we say Indic values, what are the Indic values that we carry? So one thing that is all and what we call Astha in Hindi, we see divinity in all creations. So we consider our rivers sacred, our environment sacred, our obviously the spiritual places are obviously sacred to us. We always look forward to seek knowledge. So we seek knowledge from each and everything, and that is what has been defined in all our Vedas or all the literature that we have from the history. So we have been always a civilization who is always seeking knowledge and trying to improve itself. We respect all faiths. Respectful disagreements happen. We argue it, debate it, discuss it, and come to a conclusion. Wherein, when we see the Abrahamic values, for that matter, how it is different from the Indic values, they consider that our religion is the only one true religion. They don't consider any other religion to be in existence for that matter or equivalent. They split the entire world into believers and infilters, right? Finality of scriptures, missionary. So their aim is expansionist. They convert the entire population to the religion that they believe in, which is very opposite to what the Indic values are. Indic values never teach us that, means they teach us certain parameters of it, but there is an entire difference between it. So this map, if you see, So how this entire system works, and this is an example we have taken up. So this is a map of Africa. If you see the pink lines that we have drawn, these are the native religions. Okay, at one time they were all over Africa, but now you can see them in bits and pieces across the country. And that is what we are seeing across the globe. In certain countries, the native religions have entirely been wiped out, and some are on the verge of being wiped off. Okay, so you will see the gaps have been filled by Christianity, Islam, Hinduism is, I can hardly see apart from one or two places, Hinduism is not there. Correct? The particularity of these religions are they are so thorough with what they do and what they believe and the people that they engaged with. So this is the data that we have been able to dig out. So according to that, even Mahatma Gandhi had to be baptized. Correct? Because they couldn't consider ki Mahatma Gandhi will go to hell because of his work. So if he has to go to heaven, he has to be baptized and he has to officially means take that into consideration or for that community to take into consideration if Mahatma Gandhi has to go to heaven. So Rabindranath Tagore, we all know, and he very prominently said, and I'll read it out for you. There are two religions in earth which have distinct immunity against all other religions. These two are Christianity and Islam. They are not just satisfied with observing their own religion, but are determined to destroy all other religions. And this is something that's the only way to make peace with them is to embrace their religion. And that is something, if since you all have come to this webinar and you all believe in the philosophy that we are going behind, so if you evaluate it, that is the news that we hear on day-to-day basis. Be it France, be it USA, be it Europe, and all these places, constantly these are the fights that are happening. Now we have asked this question to certain leaders, and Rahulji has personally gone ahead and asked this question to prominent leaders that if India becomes 80% Muslim, would India and its values remain? That's a scary question to ask, but that is what it is. So this is another example why we ask that question, because people are behind this mission. So Popular Front of India, which has been banned by the government now, actually published a report, and it's a complete report which is available on online. People can go and search for it. And it is actually how we will infiltrate the different bureaucracy, army, police, judicial system, local communities, and all that. Maybe later, Dr. Bajaj will also share some light what are his findings on different studies like this. But actually, by 2047, they want to establish Islamic rule in India. Basically, that is what it says. So I'm going to play a small video for you so that, and this video we play because we like their clarity with which they work, plus whatever I have said till now, it will actually build upon. So basically what he is trying to say in this particular video, and I'll share this link on the group. Okay, so basically he's trying to say that as soon as we get into the power, first thing we will do is the education system we will change. We will change the way bureaucracy works. And ultimately we will change the constitution to establish Islamic Sunni law. So that is what they are saying, and they are very clear in what they say. This is another example which I would like to highlight. So this is basically the Joshua project. Under the Joshua project, basically they have, so all these red dots that you see, so they have basically mapped all the regions where Christianity has not reached. Okay, if you can see in India, there are a lot of places where they have marked it. These are the people who are unreached, and they actually have a plan in hand to reach out to all these places and convert people to Christianity. Christianity is something that Bible is a document which is like, which has maximum number of translations in India. Each and every language in India has a translation of Bible in it so that it is easily understandable by people and they can actually influence them with their teachings and all that. Now, another example, the highest number of Sikh conversion to Christianity are happening right under the nose of Amritsar. So within the radius of 25 kilometers from Golden Temple, the conversions are happening. So every day, means since the social media is so easily accessible, so you can see Prophet Bijender and all that doing hallelujah and making people show miracles. I don't know if they are real or not, but actually convincing people that Christianity is something that will set their life right. We actually used AI and we asked Grok, means can you show some numbers based on what is happening in Punjab and what is the conversion status in Punjab. So it shows that 10 to 15%, approximately 32 to 48 lakh people in 2024 population has been converted, right? Local estimates suggest that 23 Christian population in Gurdaspur district with similar trend in Amritsar, right? And then you see all these turban wearing prophets calling hallelujah in all of the Punjab, in Amritsar, Chandigarh, and all those places. This is another George Punaiya who says that we wear shoes because impurities of Bharat Mata should not contaminate us. Land of Bharat Mata should not touch their feet. And he is the same person who was actually giving lecture to Rahul Gandhi that Jesus is a real God. And he was actually taking a complete satsang, you may say, on the existence of God and how what is a real God and all that. Now, what are our problems? Means all these things that we mentioned, and there it's not easy because there is an entire financial ecosystem that is working behind it. So they have resources, they have manpower, they have all the infrastructure in place. Where are we struggling as a community? All our temples are under government control. Means some of the biggest temples, some of the richest temples in the country are still controlled by the government. And the money that they receive is distributed for social good, like building of bus stands, building of hospitals, building of educational institutions, where again the benefit goes to all the people. It's not restricted to only Hindu people, right? So that is like a one problem. Then Islamophobia, means UN has officially recognized Islamophobia as a serious issue, and they make use of it in excellent way possible to actually counter any narrative. You will hear a statement saying ki Islamophobic hai. Then our people are fighting the battles for swastika because they consider it to be a Nazi signal. Okay, so there are people who are actually fighting for swastika in Germany, Australia, and other countries. Dr. Sufia Patan works with us, and she heads our Center for Social Studies. And she has been doing research on the caste system and how the certain laws have been made around caste system and how this entire thing is impacting. And one thing that she came up with and the statement that she gave is, we are not shackling some to protect others. Means these are the laws that we have. We are actually handing out weapons to each section of the population to use against each other. And that is what we see in our day-to-day life, right? So you must have seen it in the UGC bill that passed out. It was one against the another. So that is how the systems are built. That is how the laws are passed. Correct? Are we heading towards a civil war or another partition? Means, I think this question should be asked by each one of us to ourselves. Is this happening? Because we see certain things happening in bits and pieces in each and every district of India. Right. So what are the long-term solutions? So one solution is revamping the design of the Indian state. Okay. When we say revamping the design, so what we say for us, when Modi ji, means he has been a great leader, and the vision that he gives for the country are astonishing. Means he is the only prime minister who actually thinks 30 to 40 years beyond. And he has given a vision of India at 2047, Viksit Bharat, that we will become a Vishwaguru, we will become a Viksit Bharat. But what type of Viksit Bharat do we want to become? If we become a Viksit Bharat, will the stone pelting on Ram Navami Shobha Yatras be a thing in the past? Will it stop? Will Christianity stop soul harvesting? That there is only one God, and if you follow him, all your pains will go away. And will we have a fair and fast justice delivery?
will we have a fearless society? So if we want to build a Viksit Bharat, all these points, if they are catered to and if they are satisfied, I think then we are a Viksit Bharat. Otherwise, we are just an economy which is doing really great in the across the globe. So what we want to see, a state that protects, preserves, and promotes its homegrown knowledge system, traditions, cultures, and values. We want to see a Viksit Bharat rooted in its cultural values. So, as a society now, I have shed a lot of light on what are the problems and what all has been happening, what are we doing, how are we in a problem. So, what are the solutions right now as a society? If we have to say, what are the current solutions that we have in? So, there are people who are doing a fantastic work by building gurukuls. There are a lot of lapses in the gurukul system right now as well, because it doesn't have an affiliation from a government body. Students have to go through NIOS and all that system is in place, but the Gurukul system doesn't have an affiliation methodology as per the government. Okay. So there are people who are doing Vedic Gurukuls, who are doing modern age Vidyalayas and all that. We have to support them because they are the people who are actually protecting our civilization. So for that matter, if I give you a short story, Mohit, who runs this Vedic Bharat Gurukul, he is a techie by background. So he is actually trying to protect a Shankhayana of Rig Veda for which only two living acharyas are there in the country. He actually spent 5 years of his life along with his friend to actually learn that entire Shankhayana. And now he is running a Gurukul where he is training approximately 25 students in that particular Shankhayana. So we know that Shankhayana will be protected and then there will be acharyas who will be able to take it forward. So this is what we are doing. So they are not recognized, right? Then there is an entire ecosystem of halal economy. You people must have heard about it. So Sardar Ravi Ranjan ji is fighting against it. He has dedicated his life to do it. It was only the meat that was halal, but now the each and every product is a halal. It's a mandatory certification if you want to export it. So he's fighting for it. He's fighting against it. So we have to break that chain. We have to stop funding the halal mafias. Correct? Then there are legal battles. Correct? This is a picture of Kashi Vishwanath, where actually Vazu was being done at the Shivling. So they try to destroy the Shivling as well. Then people are fighting the Hinduphobia motion. Then there are certain XMs who have left Islam and now coming forward to actually talk about their own religion. So these are the people who are like actually getting on a discussion mode where they are sharing about what is right, what is wrong, how it is not as per the human rights and all those sort of things. We have to support them. Then there are people who are actually, so this is an example of Ugra Narasimha. So he is a person who has actually in the Mallapur district of Kerala, which is like a 80% Muslim dominated demography. There he has documented over 350 temples which were destroyed during the Tipu Sultan raid and the Mopla raids. So he goes around, he invests his money, he collects funds, small bits and pieces from certain people. And this is what you can see is what was the condition of a temple and then how he rebuilds it. So all the work from taking the custody of the land, arranging for the construction, then getting the Pran Pratishtha done, then creating an ecosystem around the temple so that it is sustainable. And he is currently on his, I think, 15th to 16th project. He has already completed 14 to 15 temples. This is another example. So when there was Islamophobic and all that sort of thing, there was a whole database created around it. What did we have in hand? So Nupur Sharma took on the challenge and she created a completely academic work on Hinduphobia tracker. So till date, she has documented over 4,500 crimes, then categorized it, then given it a tag why it is considered a hate crime. And according to that, and the data is growing exponentially. Now people are coming to her. Initially, nobody wanted to support her, but now people are coming to her to take her data and then do something about it. Correct. So these are the changes that happen on ground. Again, the problem of our temples are not free. So simply the money gets taken away of our astha that we give for our astha, but it gets taken away by the government. Then there are people who are converting the entire Bhagavad Gita into Natyam. She is Pavitra Srinivasan. So she completes her one chapter. She has already done 3 chapters of it. Goes around, request for funds, get auditorium on goodwill basis and all that. I mean, it's fantastic work. Then there is Parvati Ma, who is actually in West Bengal trying to protect the Baul music. She has created an ashram where she is creating next generation of Baul performers so that that particular heritage can be protected, because she gave a vachan to her guru that I will protect it and I'll build a ashram which will do it. So she is building an ashram. So what is actually we are after? So we are after creating 1,000 crore endowment fund, which will, the operating principle for that endowment fund will be very simple. We will make liberal grants, trust by default, and evaluate over time. Correct? We don't want to go to somebody who is doing a fantastic work on ground and tell them ki first answer our 100 questions, then you will get 1 lakh rupees from us. We don't want to do it. We do have a transparency and accountability system in place, but we don't want to ask them 100 questions because we want them to do their work. Till now, we have supported over 190 plus organizations. We have had only 1 or 2 bad examples. Apart from it, our success rate has been very good. So initially we thought that because we are building a Hindu fund, these are the problems, the entire country understands the problem, the money will be pouring in, people will come forward to join us and all that. But that didn't happen. We are very much way too behind on our fundraising targets, what we wanted to achieve. So we said that, okay, maybe it's a good idea to actually set our priorities right. So urgently, which are the areas that desperately need support? We need a legal framework for the Hindu society. So we want to build a legal fund. So for those who know, so under UGC, Rahul Divanji was one of the petitioners along with Anubhav as well, which got stay on the UGC bill. Then we want to do a manuscript and inscription endowment fund. So we have formed a different organization called Manuscript and Inscription Digital Foundation. We have over 1 crore manuscripts lying around. The Epigraphica Indica, which was scanned by Britishers, is still lying on the internet in the scanned format. You can't text search that. It's one of the biggest repository of our Indian literature. So will actually try to find manuscript, preserve them, then translate them, then train AI models, put it in searchable format that so that it can be, one thing, it can be used by the scholars. The other thing is that it can be used to train the AI models in the future. Okay, we want to, means our big dream is to have our own indianarchives.org where all these details will be available. We want to build an endowment fund for spiritual infrastructure. So all these construction of temples, gurukuls, and all these small spiritual infrastructure that we want to have, we can build those ashrams and all. Then we have set up a Sanatan Ghar Vapsi Foundation, for which again we are building a 25 crore we are seeking. Basically, this organization is not engaged in Ghar Vapsi, but it will create an ecosystem across pan India for Ghar Vapsi. It will be through awareness, capacity building, engaging with multiple stakeholders and all that, talking to dharma gurus, acharyas. So it is actually a capacity building and ecosystem building organization. This is some of the example of why we want to have a endowment fund. So freeing temples from government control, Sabrimala temple, minority, challenging ambiguity of minority, challenge Foreign Contribution Act. Why we want to challenge Foreign Contribution Act? The maximum money came, I'm not sure of the number right now, but a huge amount of money, maybe bigger than what the CSR contribution in India is, which is 32,000 crores, maybe bigger than that. We have received funds which are being mainly for the organization who have their origin outside India. They work in the tribal locations, all that, and indirectly or indirectly, it works against us only. This is what we want to do through manuscript inscription, like I said. So till now, like I said, we are very much behind on what we aimed for and what we wanted to achieve. So till date, we have supported over 193 plus organization. The details of maximum of these organizations is available on our website. People can go review it. What is the project that they are doing? About 22 crores of funding has been done to all these organizations since 2016. Our annual spend from the last year has been approximately 7 to 8 crores. So this is our annual spend which we give out to organizations. This is our governing council. So some of the known faces, if you may say, Pai family, Vijay Vishwanathan ji, who is the second in line to Rajiv Malhotra ji, Ram Swarup ji is a business coach, Anand ji is a top corporate lawyer, obviously Rahul Diwan ji. Then we have some dignitaries from the armed forces. Swami Ved Tatwananda has been part of Ramakrishna Mission for 22 years. H.S. Sudarshan is like one of the biggest Sanskrit scholars in the country, who understands manuscripts and inscriptions in and out. And he is part of our manuscripts, digital and inscription foundation. At last, I would like to say that dharmasya moolam artham, dharma ka mool arth hi mool arth hai. Means if we have to protect dharma, we have to have earth in it. We have to have like support dharmic organization, provide funding to them. This is a graph that we show just to tell you what has been our recurring donors. So suddenly there has been a spike in our March recurring donors, but most of this has been because people committed to support us in March. But if you see suddenly there is a spike, then the number drops and all that. So we need recurring donors so that our recurring demands can be met. We know the inflow of the money and accordingly we can commit to support people. With this, I'll stop my presentation. Thank you so much for hearing me. I'm going to hand over the presentation to Bajaj sir, who will share about his work. Sir, over to you, please.
Thank you, Anubhav and Neeraj. Neeraj has told us so many things about the Indian situation. And I was thinking maybe a better way will be to take one by one those issues and discuss, because each one of those is multi-dimensional problems India has. Each one of those issues needs to be sorted out, discussed, worked upon. But what I will do today is that I will tell you, since I have looked at the list of participants today, and perhaps most of you wouldn't have heard of the center or its work. So I'll just give a quick overview of what we have done till now. What we call the Center for Policy Studies, its beginnings can be traced to 1978, when some of us who were largely scientists associated with various universities and IITs, who got together in Chennai to discuss issues concerning Indian science. And the issue before us was that the science that we were doing, or the technology that we were doing, did not seem to have any relationship with what is the Indian tradition of doing science or Indian tradition of doing technology. And once we formulated the problem like that, then there was the issue, what is the Indian tradition of doing science? What is the history of science in India? What is the history of technology in India? What have been the Indian technologies? That historical issue was there, but there were also the epistemological issue that are these sciences that we were doing and what the technologies they're doing, do they differ from, in any substantive sense, from what are the modern sciences and technologies? So we studied that issue in great detail, and it is our understanding that, as Dangwal has been telling us, India is a separate world. It is a special civilization, and its ways of doing everything are quite different than what are the ways of the West. And so our sciences are different. Their their seekings are different, their methodologies are different, and our technologies are different. I'll not go into the details. Sometime we can have a whole lecture on that. So that is one work we started in 75, we called 78. We called it Patriotic People-Oriented Science and Technology Group. Patriotic in the sense of being related to science and technology, which is related to the Indian civilizational tradition, and people-oriented in the sense that it is concerned with the problems of India as such, or the people of India. Whatever work we have done, we have some documentation of that we have placed on our website. There'll be, I think, about 700-800 pages or 1,000 pages. And I'll give a link to that work. The work we started then on the sciences, today we are talking a lot about Indian sciences, since this issue of Indian knowledge has become salient. While looking at it, much of what we are looking at, what is being published from the scientific community as Indian science, we find that there is some kind of an issue we have. We are trying to prove in many cases that what is today the best of science, or best of physics, best of astronomy, best of medicine, that some kind of preview of that was available in Indian knowledge also, which we believe is the wrong way of looking at things. We were doing, when we did medicine, what we meant by health and what we meant by medicine were very different than what we mean by health and medicine today. And when we did astronomy, our understanding of what we need to know about the skies and about the planets in order to run life here was quite different than what the understanding of the today's science. So that is some issue. When we really want to rebuild Indian knowledge system, we'll have to look at how Indian ways of doing science and technology are different than today's way of science and doing science and technology. And then we'll have to concern ourselves with the issue of how do we do today's science and technologies in our ways. That will be a very interesting thing to do. But okay, so that is one part of the work which we started in 78, continued on that till about 90. That work continues. Some of our people have done different kinds of work on science and technologies. But in 90, we set up the Center for Policy Study because we thought the questions we are asking about science are also relevant about the society as a whole, about what Indian society is. So one of the earliest works that we published, this is the first publication of the Center for Policy Studies, Bhartiya, Chitta, and Kaal. That this is a work by Dharampal ji, which he spoke on tape and I recorded it, and that was in Hindi, which I translated into English. The purpose of this exploration was that how is the Indian mind, Indian Chitta, Manas, and Kala are different from the Western way of looking at the world. This is an overview based. Dharampal ji created this overview on the basis of his quick reading of the Vedas, of Puranas, of fairly large amount of literature. I think he spent about 3 years going through it, and then he wrote this book. It gives an idea of how Indian way of visualizing time is different than the Western way of visualizing science. Indian way of visualizing space is different than the Western way of Indian ethics is different. Everything that we are trying, Indian way of looking at education is different. So this small book tells us a lot of things about when we want to build what what Neeraj was saying, in 1947, we don't want to build merely a economically advanced India, but an India which expresses, manifests its civilizational sense. This is in a way to state what is that civilizational sense that India will have to manifest when it will. But my understanding is that these are not two unrelated issues. Achieving economic greatness and manifesting your civilization are always go together. You really cannot become a developed country till you have not learned how to live with your civilization and build on it in the modern times. That is what development is about. And it cannot happen in 1947. We will be a great economic nation, we'll be a great technological nation, but we'll leave our civilization where it is. That doesn't normally happen. This is another issue we can discuss in some detail, because today we have examples of many countries which have their own civilizational ways of doing things, which were during the colonial phase left behind, became poor, became deprived, and they have, many of them have now become what we call developed or are on the way of becoming developed. And in almost every case, they have very imaginatively, very assertively used their traditional civilizational ways of being in different aspects to achieve that. We should discuss that at some point. This is the next book we wrote. This is written, this was a series of seminars, talks we held immediately after the demolition of the Babri Masjid. And somehow we very strongly felt that that demolition represented a reassertion of faith in the Indian ways by the Indian people. And this book was these discussions were a way of putting it down. I think if some of this book is available on our website to freely to read, and I will suggest that some of you try and read, especially the very extensive introduction, where I try to put the issue of Babri Masjid in the context of what is the Indian civilization, Indian society, and what will be the physical space that will not look alien to the Indian people. And maybe you can have a look at that. Then in the same process of trying to see what is it that defines India, what is it that makes Indian science different than the Western sciences, what is it that makes Indian society different than the Western society. To answer those questions, there are various approaches. One can look at science and do it. One can look at events like what happened during the Babri issue, and from there look at how Indian people are reacting, from where those reactions are coming. But one of the rich sources of learning about that is the Indian classical literature. Fortunately, India is highly blessed that our ancestors have left us extraordinarily rich civilizational literature. And in this book, we try to look at the problem of food and hunger on the basis of what our traditional Indian literature, classical Indian literature says. And from that exploration, we could see what is the relationship between man and the world, man and other fellow beings, man and nature, and what is especially the relationship between king and the society in the Indian context. And I strongly feel, in fact, we all strongly feel, that unless we restore that relationship with the state and the society, in the Indian way until we continue with the current colonial relationship of the state with the society, which Neeraj has repeatedly saying the state runs the temples, the state runs everything, and society is the recipient, while recipient or the victim, whatever one calls it. But unless we restore a relationship where state and society both operate on the Indian ways of being and the way India has always thought of that relationship, I don't think we will make much headway. This book was a effort in that direction to understand what is the Indian relationship in the science, society and the state, and how it expresses itself in different aspects. This is the same book in Hindi. Incidentally, all these books are available for reading on our website. This is a seminar so this is another major work we did. In the center, we have been trying to look both at the classical literature, history, and also the current state of India in different aspects. So one of the issues we worked on was the demography of India, and especially religious demography of India. In this, we looked at changing religious demography from 1881, when the first census was done, to 1991, and we did it up to the district level. This was actually for many people, and to an extent for us, was an eye-opening book, because much was being talked about the changing religious demography, that the Muslims are becoming more, that there are areas of India where large numbers are converting to Christianity. All this is being talked about, but there were not numbers for this anybody had. In this book, we tried to put the numbers on the basis of the censuses from 1881 to 1991. And later we have updated this to 2001 and 2011. I cannot tell you, we don't have the time today of what we learned from this. But one of the major conclusions that we arrived at was that not in what is India today, but in what was India before 1947, what we call the Akhand Bharat, India including Bangladesh and Pakistan. If we look at the religious demography of that area, the way this data is moving, by the second half of the 21st century, that's what we wrote in this book, in all likelihood, in this area, Hindus will be a minority, Hindus and Sikhs and Jains all put together. And at that time, people thought that we are overstating things. But now we have projections of population. UN keeps doing it up to the end of this century. And now it seems almost certain that what we said then, that in the second half, sometime in the second half of the 21st century, it could be 2060, it could be 2070, not much later. Even if you just take the current census numbers, the Indian religionists will become a minority in this region. There'll be more than 50% of Muslims and Christians put together. And this is something which has become almost a fait accompli. Again, not in the Union of India that exists today, but in the larger India, Indians' religion is becoming a minority, has become a fait accompli, largely because in the last 100 years, population of Pakistan has risen, and perhaps also of Muslims in India has risen several times faster than the population of the Indian Union and of Hindus. And really, the way we are organized now, it is difficult to imagine that within the next 20, 30 years, we'll be able to do anything about the rise in population in Pakistan. So the fact that Indian region will become a minority for the Indian religionists is something which we'll have to take as granted. There's nothing. Then we did this book where we updated it 2001 and we have updated to 2011 on the net. This is a small illustrated book we prepared on the basis of. So in this, I was telling you about all of India, but within what is the current India, this green are areas where there is a fairly large proportion of Muslims. And red are the areas where we have a large proportion of Christians. And this redness and greenness is becoming more and more marked as we move from one. It's only this central area, what we call the cow belt or the Hindu belt, that there is not any major presence of Muslims or Christians. On the borders, there's a massive presence of borders. This also we can discuss sometime. This is in Hindi. This I want you to, while I was working on the issue of religious demography, I, along with the Vanvasi Kalyan Ashram, had a look at what is the demography of scheduled tribes in India, what religion they belong to in different parts of India. And along with it, I looked at what is their presence of the scheduled tribe presence in the services, for example. How many of them are Hindus and how many are Christian? And the result of this were very startling. I think you are aware that when a scheduled caste converts, he does not remain scheduled caste as far as the Indian Constitution is concerned. He or she cannot avail of the reservations available for the scheduled caste. Though there are people who convert, and as the church says, there are people they call them crypto Christians, who are known to the church as Christians, but they are not known to the secular state as Christians, and hence they continue to be availing the reservations that we have for the scheduled caste. But for scheduled tribe, that condition is not there. They can convert and still continue to be scheduled tribes and continue to get the benefits of reservation. So if you look at this back page of this is only, I just looked at the number of IAS from scheduled caste from the Northeast. And what I found was that out of this number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 68 IAS from the Northeast, excluding Assam, only 1, 2, 10 or 11 were Hindus, and the remaining 57 were Christians. And this was for those who were directly recruited. But when I looked at promoted IAS, there were 43 of them. And amongst the promoted IAS, there were only 4 Hindus and 39 were. And the situation was similar in Assam. I was surprised what is happening. That when people coming from the through a competition, there can still be some representation of Hindus. But people who are being promoted through the local services, there are hardly any Hindus being promoted. The situation was much worse in central India, where of the directly recruited, only 3 were Christians and 5 were Hindus, but in the promoted ones, 4 were 5 were Christians and 4 were Hindus. So there is not only that through the process of selection, through the process of education, we are discriminating against the scheduled tribes who have not converted, but also through our bureaucratic processes of promoting people, we are continuing that. Anyway, this was something I thought this I did long ago. And I thought when a nationalist government comes to power, this kind of error will get corrected because this is eminently correctable. But I don't think anything has changed in this. In fact, if anything, things are becoming worse. But I will suggest that this kind of one should keep continuous data on this kind of issues. Neeraj was referring to Joshua Project. They have a establishment which keeps data on every tribe of the world. We should, I have been requesting one more secular also to read, we should at least keep looking at what is going on. And this kind of study should be repeated again and again and again for every part of India. Because till these issues are not solved, till then we are in a difficult. This is another book we did. This also became an exhibition which went to perhaps 70, 80 places in the country. This is a series of panels which defines, as I was saying, our concern all the time has been to define what makes India distinct as a civilization, distinct as a geography, distinct as a culture. And this was, from whatever we have learned, on the basis of that, we had created an exhibition of about 100 exhibits, giving in different ways how India is special in geography, special in culture, special in history, special and different and rich and beautiful. In fact, while doing this book, I think for the first time, I learned that Indian geography is richer than almost anywhere else in the world. Some of the things which we take for granted, for example, we take it for granted that there will be a river, whichever state of India you are living in. There will be a river nearby. This doesn't happen in the world. Or we take it for granted that wherever you are living, mostly everywhere that you are living, leave out the Thar Desert and part of the Thar Desert, which is India. Even there, though, agriculture happens. And leave out maybe some areas of Himachal. Even there, everywhere you can do very rich agriculture. This is very unusual in the world. If you compare it with China, you can do agriculture only what is the sea shelf of China, the thin eastern belt of China along the coast, where rich agriculture is possible. We take it for granted that there'll be sun every day and the crops can be. In fact, there are many parts of India where 3 crops are done in a year. There are parts of India where three crops of paddy done in a year. That is because the crops can grow in India, there's enough sun for 300 days or 360 days in most of the places. In China, actually, geographers calculate that in a year, in different parts of China, how many crop growing days are there. Most places, that calculation has to be made. In India, that calculation does not have to be made. So anyway, this taught us a lot of things. This also is available on our website, and it's a very easy reading book. Maybe you should consider reading it. This is in Hindi. Okay, this is another work we have been So we are trying to understand what is it, what are the Indian ways of organizing different aspects of society, organizing state, and where do those ideas come from? And in this process, one of the set of data that we have looked at, that the British had carried out a survey of about 2,000 localities in North Tamil Nadu, very near where I live, Tamil Nadu. And it was before they had set up their own administration. This was 1760. Uh, Survey was between 1767 and 73 or something like that. But it's a very extensive survey where they wanted to, from village to village, they went and they recorded what is the area of the village, what are the fields associated, what are the water sources, what are the various households in the village, on which states they live, how many temples are there in the village, almost everything about the village and its economy, how much was produced on what piece of land in the last 5 years of what crop. All this kind of data they collected. On the basis of that, that's one very major work that we have been continuing for last 35 years. And on the basis of that, we are able to estimate what was the agricultural production in this area and how it was deployed. And we learned two things. One, that the agricultural productivity was very high. Average productivity in this region in 60s is, I think, at least twice the average we have today for India. And per capita production of grains in this region at that time, and this is on the basis of numbers, this is not speculation, was about 5 times. We today produce about 200 kg per capita of food grains. This area was producing anything between 900 and 1,000 kilograms per capita per year at that time. So it was, in fact, we have a habit of looking at this data, that any country which we can call developed today will be producing above 600 to 7 kg per capita of food grains. We still produce about 200 kilograms or maybe a little less. And many countries which were in our kind of condition, say about 30 years ago, have reached the 600-700 figure. We all know about China, but even Vietnam has done it. Vietnam was almost hungry, and but this is a measure of, it's a very easy measure of development. A country which is above 500 kilograms can be seen to be on the way of becoming a developed country. That's what the worldwide data seems to be. So anyway, we are looking at this. And so one thing we find is that it is extremely rich area in terms of agricultural production. And that richness then you see in the large number of very beautiful temples. It's not that the Kanchipuram has very high temples. It is, I think, in the Kanchipuram district, every third village will have a very high temple. So that was the kind of richness it had. The second thing we notice is that village is running its affairs almost entirely on its own. There's no external state which is looking after its education or its maintenance or its road maintenance or its irrigation or its cultural functioning. For all of this, or its security, or its registry, what we call accounting, it seems that every village allocated about 30% of its produce for these functions. Of that 30% went, 25% or so went to local functions, and 5% to the higher, would have gone to Kanchipuram or above. So We are surprised to find that actually what we talk about as decentralized government, this is not a decentralized government. This is a government built from below. Village is the unit, primary unit of polity on which the rest of the polity is built. The British looked at it, British understood what it means, and they said, this is not what we are going to let it happen here. We will, in fact, they write it down more or less, that will take all these resources on the government from the village, and these functionaries who are paid for the various functions, most of them will be dismissed, but those who are necessary, they'll be made servants of the district administration or the British administration. They will not be part of the village community. So they actually, in this very interesting set of data, these are 2 villages we have done. We have recently done 2 more villages. We have done the whole data. And we almost can see how India was being organized, how writing down step by step the British restructured it. And to our understanding, making a developed India will mean somehow we go back to that structure, because there are no countries which can become developed while retaining a colonial structure of administration and a colonial relationship between the state and the society. We have, from the same urge to know what India is, we have looked at Mahatma Gandhi in great detail. This is his book, Hind Swaraj, where he stated what he thinks is Indian civilization and what he thinks is the Western civilization. And he stated that as far as he is concerned, Western civilization is not a civilization, it is an Asuric civilization. That's that almost the term he uses. We did a very good edition of Hind Swaraj, starting from his handwritten copy in Gujarati, translated that into English and Hindi, made this edition. But this is a more interesting book that we have done on Mahatma Gandhi. We hear much about Mahatma Gandhi. But Mahatma Gandhi, his self-image was that he is nothing if he is not a Hindu, and is nothing if he is not a patriot. Both these terms he coined for himself. More than he coining for himself, Tolstoy told his diarist that this Gandhi, that time he was not important, seems a very interesting person, except for his Hindu patriotism. And Tolstoy was unhappy about his Hindu patriotism, because Tolstoy was a universalist Christian. But he was very happy with him, because he thought that what he is learning from Hinduism, Mahatma Gandhi, is what are the essential teachings of Christianity also. But anyway, this book we have looked at Mahatma Gandhi's formative period up to 1914, from the birth to 1914, and try to give how systematically, slowly, consciously he evolves into a patriot and a Hindu, in fact, into a Hindu patriot. That's the correct term to use for him. And actually, that is the term when he was leaving South Africa in 1914, in one of the, in fact, not more than one of the farewell speeches that were given, farewell meetings that were had, large meetings, he was addressed as Deshbhakt Mahatma. Hindu Deshbhakt Mahatma is how he was addressed. That's in writing, actually, because we have so many people saying so many things about who called him a Mahatma. Well, the people of Indians in South Africa called him a Mahatma, the first, and in writing, which is available in the Indian opinion of that time. Anyway, but our understanding is that in the modern period, beginning with the modern period, we can begin after our end of the first war of independence. That's when India started seriously becoming modern. And that period, I think we have had no leader who is so assertively Hindu and so clear that if India is to be rebuilt in the modern times, it will have to be rebuilt on its civilizational moorings and not otherwise. So he is important, and whatever is going on today about him is only misleading us. On all these directions, on demography, on this this Mahatma Gandhi, on this issue of India as it was before the British came, as seen in the Tamil villages of 18th century, and on our civilizational literature. What does it tell us about how India should be, and what is the ideal relationship between the state and the society? Not only that, between man and God, and between man and nature. On all these issues, that's the work we have been continuing to do. The work which we are doing most recently, and for which we have been getting some support from the Hindu Fund. And let me quickly show you the interface. That basically the question we had was that we are talking so much about Indian knowledge, but there's very little familiarity with the corpus of Indian knowledge that Indian scholars, Indian students, Indian teachers have. And since we are organizing our libraries on the in the Western way, so in those libraries, the corpus of Indian knowledge, whatever little is there in the library, it gets scattered all over the library. Ayurveda will go somewhere with occult medicine or something like that. Vedas will go somewhere with non-Christian religions or in ancient history. Mahabharata I've seen going in English drama, or because really in the library there's no place for no specified place for Indian knowledge. So one of the jobs, one of the things we wanted to do was that let us organize Indian corpus of knowledge in the traditional Indian way, and at least the Indian knowledge books in our libraries we put together according to that catalog. We have more or less created that, and I'll give you a quick look at that. Catalog we are proposing is it will have at the top level these 10 categories. There'll be Vedas, there'll be Itihasa and Puranas, Darshana, Sampradaya, and then there'll be Vedangas, Upaveda, Kavya, history, which we are calling Puravrit, geography, and then geography of India, Bhuvivarana, and Granthavrita, bibliographies of India. Then within Vedas, we make these spaces compilations of different Vedas. Then for Rig Veda, Krishna Yajurveda, Shukla Yajurveda, Samveda, Atharveda. Then modern instances and concordances of Vedas and modern studies on Vedas. Then within Rig Veda, there'll be Rig Veda Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Parishishta. And similarly, say under Atharveda, we'll have Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Parishishta. Within the Aranyakas, then we can have different Aranyakas, say, we can take this Shukla Yajurveda. So we can have different Aranyakas there. So the whole set of corpus on this, we have created a place for each category. This is for the Vedas, and as you've seen, we have already put 727 books of Vedas under different categories in this collection. Then we have Itihasas and Puranas, where we'll have where more than one Itihasa is put. But then we have Ramayana, Mahabharata, Harivansha, Srimad Bhagavata, Purana, and the modern studies on these. And In Ramayana, we are giving different place for Valmiki Ramayana and other Ramayanas in Sanskrit. There are 16 such Ramayanas in our collection. And then have Ramayanas of other Indian languages. These Ramayanas of other Indian languages need not be in those languages. Different languages have their Ramayanas, and they say there may be Marathi Ramayana which is published in Kannada, which will also come as a Marathi Ramayana here. For example, let me give you that this West Indian. We have a Gujarati Ramayana and we have 3 Marathi Ramayanas. And amongst this Pavarth Ramayana of Eknatha, there is a Kannada edition of all of that also, because all these are very, very largely spread through India. Even when some Ramayana is being produced as a local version somewhere, it does travel to the rest of India. And we have a space for Ramayanas in Asia and different parts of Asia. Darshana, then we divide into Nyaya Vaisheshika, Sankhya, Yoga, Mimamsa, Vedanta, Buddha, Jaina. And within that, we divide Vaisheshika, Prachin Nyaya, Nyaya Vaisheshika, Navya Nyaya Vaisheshika. And then we give the major acharyas and the other acharyas who have written Navya Vaisheshika. So we are creating a space for the whole of the corpus. Similar, say Vedangas, we have, we have been just working on Jaina. So in Jaina, we have Shvetambar Agmas, Digambar Siddhantas, early acharyas of where they are not separated into Shvetambar and Digambara. Then we have Shvetambar acharyas texts of, all of them have big corpus of their own, on which, say, if I look at Shvetambar acharyas, so there are so many acharyas of whose texts are available and which we have put together. In Vedanga, we have the Kalpa, Dharmashastra, Nirukta, Shiksha, Vyakarana, Chandas, Kosh, Ganitam, Jyotish, and within that, we have made space of different branches. In Upaveda, we'll have Ayurveda, Arthashastra, Niti Shastra, Stapatya Veda, Gandharv Veda, Alankar Shastra, Kam Shastra, and there is a category called Sarva Shastra Saras, which are encyclopedias of a kind. And within Ayurveda, of course, we have Ayurveda, Siddha, the Tibetan Ayurveda, Unani, Rasa Shastra, Vriksha Ayurveda. So we are trying to create categories for all parts of Indian literature and Indian corpus. And this way of organizing tells you what is related with what in what way. So if we can put together, we have almost, we have 30,000 books that we are classifying on this. We have already done about 20,000. And if these 30,000 are put together in this kind of classification, even on the net as we have done, and physically, that will give us some idea of what the Indian corpus is. Indian corpus is very extensive, as I was telling. And it's good that we have such a, in fact, because we have a corpus like this, that India could not be completely subjugated like much of Africa could be done, though they are also, I don't believe they will also come up. But because we have this case, and so we have to work on that, and let me see, we are working on it now. And from this corpus itself, it seems that much of the work on this, all this corpus, there was a fairly dynamic activity going on even up to 1950. And after 1950, we don't see anything interesting coming. Like till 1950, people are working on this corpus in the tradition of this corpus, using the same methodology and carrying it forward. After 1950, we are doing modern studies on all that, but in the modern way. So this continuity seems to have, and when you put together this, we see that continuity seems to have been broken only recently. No, it is not recent. It's now 75 years. But I was surprised to learn that even in Kavya, even in Hindi literature, till 1950, people who were active, they knew what is the classical Indian literature. They were using the same metaphors, the same vocabulary, the same chandas, the same ideas, and in the modern times, of course. And this was continuing at up to 1915, up to 1850 certainly, but in most areas up to 1950. This, when we are doing this is the another, I think, another discovery we have made for ourselves, but others will be able to see that this is happening. So this is one of the major activity. This is largely completed. Maybe it take us another 3-4 months to do it. For this purpose, we have evolved various tools. This itself is a tool of classification, this website, so that right now anybody can add a book to it and he'll know where the book should go. We have also created an AI tool for reading the older texts and making the catalog card for that. And that tool is working very well. What we initially got done in about 7, 8, 9 months with about 7, 8 students of library science and librarians, we have been able to do in about a week with this new tool. So in doing all this, we have been able to do much use. Neeraj was saying that we don't have our texts which are readable. These tools today, AI tools, can do it very well, only they need to be trained. They have to be created and trained, then only they do. But I was surprised when this tool somebody prepared for us could do this work of reading the first 20, 30 pages of the book, and on the basis of that, extracting the bibliographic information, putting it in a card. So that, because we have that tool now, I think we'll be able to finish it another 3-4 months. And I hope that we are making in a way that any library can use it. And we hope that once we make it, the Indian knowledge corpus in all libraries of India is organized in this manner, so that it comes in one particular corner of the library and all is put together, and the relationship between the various aspects, the breadth of Indian corpus, depth of Indian corpus, and the relationship between various aspects of the corpus become visually obvious to any student or teacher. That's been our attempt. So this is another work there. I think I'll close it at that.
Sir, thank you so much. We will end the call here.
All the participants, you have been there for more than an hour listening to me. Thank you very much.